Psych! Oh, you probably heard that song on the radio, cell phone, TV, or the computer. Well, all of those things use radio waves, and radio waves are pretty friggin' cool. And you're probably wondering,
what are radio waves?
What are radio waves?
Nick, as I was sitting here pulling weeds, I was wondering what radio waves are.
Radio waves are a wave in the electromagnetic spectrum that has very specific wavelengths and frequencies. Well, it's really broad, but it's still pretty specific. You could use them for a ton of different things, I'll get to later in the video. Stay tuned. The wavelength of a radio wave can be about this big. That's like a millimeter, give or take a couple millimeters. Or it could be about 100 kilometers. And 100 kilometers is about 62.1 miles. Roughly here to San Antonio. And here as in Austin. This is Austin! The frequency of a radio wave can get to about 3,000 hertz. That is one wavelength, or 3,000 wavelengths, so you get it. 3,000 wavelengths every second. That's the lowest. The highest it could go is 300 billion hertz. That's 300 billion wavelengths in 1 second. So about here to here. Or 1,000. Yeah, 300 billion. So, let's move on. In 1867, James Clerk Maxwell mathematically proved that there is a radio wave. He's a cool guy. Might want to hang out with him. Natural occurring radio waves occur from lightning bolts, so when they strike, they shoot off radio waves. And same with like huge asteroids or like planets like the sun. It gives off some, but we can artificially make radio waves, and we use them mostly for communication. They still count as radio waves, but they're not like natural. But we could also use them for different cool stuff. One of those cool things is you could actually lower your blood pressure using radio waves. That's crazy! You're probably wondering, how do they lower blood pressure with radio waves? Well, it's kind of cool. What they do is they cut you open. Oh yeah. And they put a little device in your kidney, and they stick it right by like a little valve. So what this little valve does is it tells you that your body needs salt, needs water, and it needs to constrict the blood flow, so it closes your veins just a little bit, your arteries, or whatever. Same thing. Sorry, Marley. So then, when you heat up this little device using radio waves, it starts heating it up. And then the valve gets really relaxed, so it's saying to your brain, we don't need this water, we don't need this salt, you could open it all up, brah. It opens it all up, and your blood travels freely, there's less water, there's less salt, and your blood pressure could actually drop down 30 points. Especially if you have a really high blood pressure and you want it down before you die. So, don't do drugs. Radio waves are used in every device I showed you. The computer, the TV, the phone, the radio, that's it. So you're probably asking, how can one single wave at the same frequency tell something what to do, what to say, what to light up? Well, I'll tell you. There are two major types of communicating with radio waves. You could use either amplitude modulation, or you could use frequency modulation. Both are really cool. Both have their pluses and minuses. That's your homework. What amplitude modulation does is it has an amplitude signal, so it's sending in the frequency that the radio transmitter is bound to pick up. But the antenna is like, what is this? We gotta decode this. So what it does is the differing amplitudes, it decodes it. It's like, this seems familiar. Let's see what it says. And you can see graphics. So the carrier wave, as you can see, is that straight looking one with the really high frequency. And the modulating wave, that is a really low frequency one, which is a radio wave. And, well, they're both radio waves, but you get it. The modulating wave basically creates an envelope around the carrier wave, and when the carrier wave differs in amplitude, then the radio, he's like, hey, this isn't right, let's decode this. And so when you differ in amplitude, differing from that wave, because that's how it picks it up, then it gets a code or a signal. So what it does, it can change the amplitude so the radio can pick up what it wants to hear. So like this amplitude, and this amplitude, it can like do two different songs like on your radio, and that's what AM radio is. But that's mostly talk shows. AM radio is boring. That's what AM stands for, amplitude modulation. That's where you get the AM radio from. Or, not the radio part, that's a different story. Let's move on. Frequency modulation, or FM. That's probably the radio you listen to the most, like 93.3, 96.7, 101X. Yeah. Anyways, so what that does, instead of making the amplitude different, it makes the frequency different, so it could, like that. Science is amazing. Do your work. Oh yeah. So instead of tracing the wave, like amplitude modulation does, what the frequency modulation does is it's like, it goes frequency and then slope. The frequency that the radio antenna is trying to pick up is basically graphing the change in frequency for the FM radio stuff. Basically, the base frequency is graphing the change in frequency, as you could see in my little graphics. The signal wave is graphing the frequency in the FM wave. And so it is related, but it's harder to visualize, so just believe me on this one. So this is frequency modulation. As you could see, like I previously stated, that red wave is the frequency that the radio is going to pick up. It's graphing the change in frequency for the wave with the message. And so when it differs in frequency, just like the amplitude modulation wave, if it differs in frequency, then the radio is going to be like, hey, this is different, let's decode this. And so then it'll get a code and it'll go like, oh, so this is what this means. And then it'll play your music, or it'll give you the website to your webpage, and that's how it works in a nutshell. Whoa, that's pretty cool. So what uses radio waves? Well, televisions do. The television stations have their own little radio towers. They send out their signal, and then it's like, let's decode this. It could be pretty sure it could be either or. Amplitude modulation and frequency modulation. One's more efficient than the other, but I am not sure on that. So your TV picks it up, it's like, hey, let's decode this, and then you have your TV show. There you go. Also, your cell phone does it, except it's a little different. You talking to it, and then that voice that you put into your cell phone is translated into, so it could be like a sound wave, radio wave kind of thingy. Anyways, it's translated information as a radio wave. It's sent up to a satellite, and then the satellite picks it up and is like, where does this need to go? That's why we have phone numbers, people. And then it's like, hey, I found you, bro! And it sends it down. And then your buddy's cell phone gets the ringtone. He picks it up, and then he could hear your voice. All of this happens at the speed of light, give or take a couple of meters per second, because we're not in a vacuum. Homework! If you're in a room, you could test this out. You could call your buddy, who's right next to you, which we text right next to us, so what does it matter? Call him and say, and that message will get to him a little like this. It will take a couple seconds, because it takes light, believe it or not, time to travel to that satellite and back to where your friend is standing, which is 2 feet away from you. Just talk, don't text. So that's how radio waves basically work. I'm sorry, it was kind of choppy, like quick cut, quick cut, quick cut. Hope you enjoyed the video. I hope it was very informative, and I hope it was very fun, because you can't learn without having fun. It's proven. That's the end of this video. I hope you enjoyed. Now go use radio waves.